Hey, what's up guys? Mirai here with another quick look at multiboxing in Final Fantasy XIV. Now there's nothing groundbreaking or anything like that going on in this video, but I did want to show off some more footage with my four casters. You'll notice that I'm using a different window layout this time, so you guys can see what's going on a little bit better. And as you can see, I've got the other three characters displayed in the bottom right-hand corner using ISBoxer's video effects. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's just a handy little feature that lets me dynamically display my characters on my other game clients depending on which game window I'm playing from. At least that's how I'm using it here. Now, this time around, I'm also trying out what's known as splitting the load. I'm doing air quotes. This is where I dedicate certain game clients to each video card so that I can get better performance by splitting their load across multiple video cards. I wanted to get the best performance that I could on my main client for this recording, so I've offloaded my other three clients onto my second video card. Interspace should handle this natively on its own, but for this video I had to specifically set the option in the game's system settings until all that gets worked out. Now, I know last time I was showing off a total of 5 characters, but as I was informed, instances in this game only accommodate 4 characters, so I ditched one of my other characters in hopes that I might be able to hit a high enough level to try and run my own instance with a mixed team. Unfortunately, questing slows down a lot at about level 15, and trying to balance my time between this game and other stuff, well, it just didn't happen. But more on that in a moment. Right now, I'm showing off how I was able to contribute to Fates, which are the group battles that randomly happen throughout the outside world. It's very nice to be able to sit in the back and just blow things up. But for those of you who currently play or have played a Final Fantasy MMO in the past, you know that you're able to level up any class or job on the same character and then share abilities and spells between those classes and jobs. So I leveled up a Conjurer, which gave me the ability to equip my girls with a cure spell that not only helps me survive in the outside world when questing, but you also just saw me throw a bunch of heals to that injured player. So now I'm twice as useful. Without the cure spell, I found that whichever character I was leading from would end up dying pretty regularly if I pulled too many mobs at once. And that's difficult to avoid because of the mass aggro you get while in a light party, which is 4 or more players. A lot of potions were used up in an attempt to survive numerous battles, but once I got the cure spell, survivability went way up. Now here's yet another fate that I wanted to show off, and you'll notice that, you might notice throughout the entire video, that I have difficulty targeting things. I found that tab targeting in this game sometimes it's a challenge because tab targeting doesn't always work out as well as you'd like, and clicking on specific targets can be quite a pain. So it's a bit of a process making sure that you're targeting the right thing before you launch your spells. And you can see me right here now flexing my muscles with some AoE spells. Doing this was extremely useful when it was time to take down a bunch of things at once, as long as I wasn't the one tanking everything. And in certain fates where there were a lot of players, using this AoE ability like this usually ended up in me losing a good chunk of FPS. But it really wasn't a big deal. I was a little disappointed that I couldn't hit level 20 because I read that this class got a ridiculous increase in DPS at that point, and I was looking forward to seeing how much more powerful I could be during fates and random questing, grinding, or whatever else. But again, time was limited, so I didn't quite make it there. Now, here I am in Limsa Lominsa, which is one of the 3 major cities, and I'm about to show off another demonstration of how awesome the follow mechanic is in this game. If I didn't sound excited in the last video, I'm here now to say that it's made my multiboxing life quite a bit easier. I stopped worrying about any time I had to navigate around tight corners or make tight turns, and it was extremely rare that a single character would break follow. But when it did happen, it was ever only because they got stuck on some random object or a rock or something on the ground, and never because I made too tight of a turn. Alright, enough of that. Let's talk about some of the different quests and how they affect multiboxers. First, I guess I'll start off with leave quests since I'm about to show some of them in the video. Real quick though, one thing I'd like to point out is that Lax still doesn't have the mouse repeater working correctly in the slave windows, but it wasn't a big deal because I set a few of my buttons on my number pad to broadcast to all of my game clients so that I could navigate menus and quest rewards and all of that good stuff, which you're seeing me do right now. I'm accepting quests by just using my keyboard. And these are known as leave quests, and you can sort of think of them like daily quests, except that if you don't do them that day, they pile up. They roll over to the next day. And they actually come around every 12 hours rather than every 24. So that's kind of nice as well. The big problem I saw with them was that it was highly unlikely that my characters would be offered the same quests from the NPC at the same time. And this was confusing as hell to me because even when I initiated a leave quest out in the field, it looked as if it was being shared across my entire party. I mean, they had the quest show up in their active quest tracker and everything, but when I went to go turn the quests in, it seemed that sometimes that not all of the characters got the reward for the quest that they didn't initially start with. Now that might sound a little confusing, but I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, I died so many times while leveling that my experience points were off on each character by literally thousands. So it wasn't that big of a deal that I was getting different, a few hundred or maybe 1,000 extra experience overall on one character and not the others. But I just figured I'd mention in here for any future Final Fantasy XIV multiboxers who unlock leave quests, only to end up seeing this weird behavior. But maybe I was doing something wrong, or maybe it's a beta bug. I have no idea. So while I'm showing off some more of the game, I'll talk about duty quests as well, which would be considered the main storyline quests. I don't have any particular footage of these duty quests, but you encounter them every few levels, and they're quests which you can't share, and they need to be progressed through solo. When I say solo, I mean you can't even be grouped with anyone else when attempting to start them, or else you get a message saying that you need to be out of your party when initiating them. So every time I ran into one of these storyline duty quests, I had to disband the party and complete them solo on each of my characters. Not really a big deal, and I could see how they would be trivial if you were allowed to complete them with other players or characters. But it was annoying nonetheless because I kept losing the progress on my limit break bar, which takes forever to fill up when you're questing. I guess all I'm saying is just be prepared for these storyline quests because they actually have a bit of difficulty to them, and I felt that I was really able to hone my skills as a solo player by completing them. However, it seems that I did end up getting a storyline quest that was forcing me to go through an instance, and obviously with no tank and no real healer, well, that was out of the question. Now, some people that haven't played the game might be asking, why didn't I pick the correct roles from the get-go? Why didn't I start with a tank, 2 DPS, and a healer? And the answer to that would be because classes, not races, are restricted to different starting areas. So if I would have rolled the right classes to fill all the roles needed for an instance, my healer would have started in a completely different city than my tank and DPS. And while that's not entirely that big of a deal, because I could have just played the healer solo for about 15 levels up until the point where they got the airship pass, or I could have ran them all the way from one city to the other, but I'll keep saying it that time was limited and we're still working out the kinks in this whole multiboxing thing. So maybe next time when the servers come back online, I'll roll a mixed team, but I'm gonna go ahead and roll some cat girls because hot damn. Anyway, that's pretty much it, and I'm going to leave you guys with this cool crab fight that I managed solo, if you consider this soloing. But I did have a few extra levels under my belt, so I'm sure that helped. As always, thanks for watching, and hopefully we can get some interesting footage during the next beta. Mirai, out.